morning and welcome to the Closers Inner Circle podcast with your host, Ben Gay III and Denise Griffitts. And this episode of the Closers Inner Circle podcast is sponsored by The Closers, also known as the Sales Bibles by Ben Gay III. Now, these vital resources are crafted to enhance your sales skills and transform your business approach. So whether you're an experienced professional or just starting your sales career, the Closers offers essential insights and strategies to help you reach your goals. And in just a few minutes, Ben will share with you how to order those books with free shipping. And in today's episode, we are continuing our exploration of the extraordinary life and career of Ross Perot. I have always been fascinated with him. He is a man who is celebrated as one of the greatest salespeople in history. And his journey from a top salesperson at IBM to the founder of Electronic Data Systems, ETS, I think it's called, showcases his innovative spirit and relentless drive, which significantly impacted the data processing industry and business practices worldwide. Excuse me. And today we're turning to page 98 of the Closers Part 2, and we're going to do a close examination of Ross Perot's key thoughts and principles. There's a couple pages. We're going to go through each one because they're each important. And these contributed to his legendary success. And Ben will guide us through an analysis of what set Perot apart from others with similar or even greater talent. So join us as we uncover the insights from Ross Perot's life that continue to inspire and influence the world of sales and business. Good morning, Ben. It's Wednesday, and it's always the highlight of my week to chat with you.
Well, bless you. I feel the same way. I hope the heat there is treating you well. Has it cooled off at all?
Sometimes I'll walk out in the early morning before dawn, really, and I'll go, oh, I can breathe. And I'll tell the dog, let's go. Come on, let's go. we can breathe out there. Then we go back out about 11. We're like, no, we're done. So it's not, no, it's not as bad as it has been. It almost sometimes feels like early autumn, which means a heck of a winter's coming our way.
You know, we had a day yesterday or the day before that was actually cool, and it was that overcast look that like it's going to rain. Maybe it didn't, but it gave me hope. And of course, we don't have it as bad as you do. You just reminded me the first time I took Gigi back to Atlanta. It was the end of spring, beginning of summer, and the next door neighbors to my sister, Gigi and Jane, are standing out in the yard talking, and the neighbors waved over and said, "Okay, see you in a few months." I wasn't there, but as I heard the story, Gigi said, "They're taking a long trip," and Jane said, "No, they go indoors."
Indoors, that's right.
And we will not see them again for at least 3 months.
That's exactly right. And, come this time of year, the car is in the garage. I don't bring it back out. I'm not going anywhere. When it gets this hot, I understand why people run over other people. You can't take it. But the day that you just described around here, we call those gumbo, go-go, and dodo weather because I'm in Cajun country. Gumbo, of course, is food. Dodo is, well, sleep. And go-go is just what you think it is. So anyway, this gumbo, go-go, and dodo.
I got it.
Yeah, go-go is, we don't talk about that. But anyway, tell people where they can find the books because that's important. We, if y'all would, get these books if you don't have them and read along with us. It'll really enhance the experience.
Well, where you go to get anything in the Closers ever-growing series is you go to stores, stores.ebay.com/ all one word, Ronzoni Books, RONZONEBOOKS. Now you can get them other places, Amazon or whatever, all the normal places, but here at stores.ebay.com/Ronzoni Books, they come signed and dated. When they go to Amazon, I don't know when they're going to sell them, so those aren't dated. and they come with our unconditional lifetime, no questions asked, money back guarantee, and free shipping, and lower prices than anywhere else, even lower than at my own website. So that's that on that, and I appreciate it. I think I'm one of your first commercials. Um, we mention the closers all the time, but as far as an
Yeah,
official commercial, and I look forward to having other sponsors join us. That'll be exciting because
exactly.
we've got
Yeah,
some great people that I personally know.
we do. And I've already sent out some notes to Tony Robleski and, David Brown. And, we'll have people coming in that we know, like, and trust and sharing where we can find them or where our guests can find them. But anyway, let's talk about, and at the end of the show, I'll ask people where they can find you and phone numbers and things like that. But for now, I wanted to get my first sponsorship ad. We're sponsoring it ourselves, so it's free. But I'm not gonna lie, we're doing it because it has to be done. So anyway, let's talk about Ross Perot. I mean, we're in the middle of the election year and the political silly season, and I really think that talking about Ross Perot is important because he was a candidate at one time. He's a phenomenal business person and salesperson. And I think it's time that people might kind of go, I remember him. Really? That's why he was so legendary? That's why.
Yeah, he was. His personality was such that some people thought he was a little crazy, but he agreed with that. He said he was a little crazy. That's what made him so successful because he took chances where other people wouldn't take chances or would be afraid to, and that served him well. But he had his misses, uh, misses. He had his misses as well as the hits he's so famous for. Among them, it's in the book, it's in this chapter somewhere, is the exact number of days. But among the reasons I consider him the greatest salesperson that I know of, I've always said Jimmy Rucker's the greatest salesperson I ever personally worked with, but I never personally worked with Ross Perot. He did among the reasons he left IBM and started his own deal was they put a cap on him. They put a quota on him, and then when you got to that quota, or a little bit past it, that was it. He couldn't make any more. And I don't have the number of days right in front of me. As I said, it's hidden somewhere in the chapter we're working from. But he hit his yearly quota and therefore peaked out in what he could make in less than 20 days. I think it was 19 or something of the calendar year. So that's how good he was.
It was
Uh,
19, it says here in the first, and we're talking about on quotas. There was a time when I identified with Thoreau's line about the mass of men living lives of quiet desperation. I was working as an IBM salesman, and they put a quota on the amount I could earn. And then in brackets, you say, in the first 19 years of 1962,
19 days.
yeah, he exceeded his entire year's quota. I don't blame him for walking. It's like, you want me to
Yeah.
just take the money that you say I can make? I don't think so.
Yeah. And what am I supposed to do the rest of the time? Sit at home, twiddle my
Yeah,
thumbs? No, I'll be
I'll
out
go golf.
working. Yeah. But what he would do is he'd be calling on clients. He just would be making any extra as a result. So I can see where that might have been a little frustrating for a person like him. You mentioned he ran for president. One of the things people, unless they're political junkies like me, forget is he got 19% of the vote on an obscure third party ticket or maybe independent. I forget how he ran. And that swayed the election. I, People argue about to whom because you're not sure where the votes came from. But if the other group has to divvy up 81% and you got 19, you decided who was president, however accidentally. So he was fond of saying that although he was not elected president, he determined who was. And there's something to be said for that. So anyway, a great guy. Oh,
Go ahead. I'm
I
sorry.
had a conversation with a person. Might be able to hear them in the background because they're doing sawing, cutting boards or tile or something almost within earshot of me. But I had a conversation with a guy who's doing that yesterday, and I thought, as a Southerner, you would appreciate it. He says, "Do you want to help?" I walked out, and he was busy. They've been over there about a month in a guest house. And I said, "No." I said, "Gigi apparently hasn't told you the rules. I have a toolbox, but I don't have a key to it because the kids, everybody's been told, don't let Ben do anything. So I'm allowed to have a hammer, a screwdriver, some duct tape, and a can of WD-40, but it's locked in a box where I can't get to any of it."
You have
So
to have a butter knife.
yeah, yeah. It So anyway, I mentioned to the guy, I said duct tape, and he says, "Oh," he said, "I'm from Kentucky. Excuse me, Tennessee. I'm from Tennessee." And I knew he was because of the way he said Tennessee. "I'm from Tennessee." He said, "Do you know what we call duct tape in Tennessee?" And I said, "No." He said, "Chrome." Think about that for a minute.
It's true. I have seen cars, I swear to you, 'cause, used to travel down, through Texas and down close to Mexico. And you would see cars that you think, oh, that's an interesting paint job. The whole thing was duct taped.
Yeah.
So,
Over the
but it
way
reflected the sun.
you can't tell where the windows are because they're duct tape up also. And the bumper is duct taped to the trunk so it won't fall off and so on. But I thought that was cute. I thought I'd heard everything Southern, but I had not heard that one. Duct tape in the South is called chrome. And then one more quick one, Jerry Arrowwood, that's Gerri, a lady who used to work with me, heard our show last week, I think it was, and we were talking about embarrassing things that has happened to me on stage, and some of my funnier incidences in life have been in front of hundreds, if not thousands of people. Jerry called and said, "You didn't tell him about Long Beach." And I said, "What about Long Beach?" He said, "Think about all those people you had to introduce." And I thought, oh my God, I had totally forgotten it. This is an embarrassing one. It's early in my career. I talked to a few large audiences, but not one this big. It was the Long Beach Arena. It was only 2 or 3 years old at the time. It sat about 15,000 people, and we had standing room only. So there was something over 15,000 jammed in there. And my job, not sure why, but the then president and the chairman of the board had asked me to MC the thing. And I had two lecterns set up on stage, one from where all the new products, a notebook full of new products, because behind me on these huge screens were going to appear, I'm guessing 2025 new products we were introducing. This was the international convention. And so I needed notes on what they were and what was in them and what they did and so on. And then they would pop up on screen. And then periodically I would walk over to the other lectern, which was, it seemed like 100 yards away. It wasn't, but it was the complete width of a huge stage. And over there, I had a notebook with all the people I had to introduce about, besides the top executives in the company in the home office, about 50 other people who were trainers. They either trained sales training or they did cosmetic training. And as I would introduce them, their pictures would pop up behind me and they would come out and take their seats. It was quite a production and mildly confusing with two lecterns and two sets of notes. So I'm over introducing people on one side. I go over to the product side. I'm introducing something over there. And just as I finished that segment, the lights went out, pitch black dark in the Long Beach arena. And so I'm thinking, I'll have to wait till the lights come up, A, to get over to the other lectern, and two, to see what my notes are, because I remembered I had one more person introduced. Lights came up. they said, and here he is again, or something like that. So I decided to wing it. I knew I only had one person left, and I said something to the effect of, ladies and gentlemen, I'm about to introduce to you a man who's going to star in a new business opportunity meeting film, which you're going to see here in a minute. And you will recognize him because he played Christ in King of Kings. I'd never heard of him. I'd seen the movie, but I didn't know who starred in it or whatever. And then it dawned on me, I'm not real good. I have face blindness and I'm not real good with names.
I was
I
just
am,
going to say that.
yeah, I'm, let's say 60 feet away on a different lectern in a different notebook from the name of the person I'm supposed to introduce. It turned out, just between you and me, and to get ahead of the story, it was Jeff Hunter, a famous actor, maybe not Clark Gable variety, but he was a working actor, and he'd been Christ and King of Kings. His name would not come to me. I started talking out loud like you do if you can't remember a name, guessing. Jimmy so-and-so, James, work with me. Well, they hadn't seen the film yet, so they didn't know who I was talking about. No one in the audience could help me. And so finally I said, I've got to go over to the other lectern. This is embarrassing. And I said, my wife, not Gigi, my first wife who's passed away, is sitting next to this man dying because there's her husband on stage. She's met her first movie star, and I don't know who he is. So just as I start over the other lectern, the president of the company, Fred Pape, whispered in the background, uh, Jeffrey, you idiot, which I heard is Jeffrey Idjit. So I introduced him as Jeffrey Idjit. Spotlight hit him. He stood up, came up, and as he shook my hand and went past me, he said, don't worry, it happens to all of us. And I thought to myself, not in front of 15,000 live people does it happen to all of us.
But it makes you human. We're always talking these days about authenticity, right?
Yeah.
That's about as authentic as it gets.
Well, when they ran the film, after he said hello and everything, they ran the film. It said starring Jeff Hunter. And I almost yelled out, Jeff Hunter, like I got it. Well, so had everybody else in the auditorium. So Jerry Elwood brought back a nightmare experience for me. Back to Ross Perot. We talked about yesterday, last week on failures is what we left off on page 98, followed by on who makes policy. And he says it's kind of hard to forget 800,000 people. It's awfully hard to forget those folks who work in the factories. We've got this crazy phenomenon all across big business in this country. Every time we have a problem, we want to blame the people on the factory floor. Now, with a sports team, the people would laugh you off the field. If the team can't win, you blame the coach. Ross Perot was huge on building teamwork. If you've read stuff from Jack Welch, the late leader of General Electric and other companies, Jack Welch and Ross Perot shared that philosophy that it was team. You don't win as an individual, you win as a team. And I've heard Ross say, people said, you did a phenomenal job, made your quota in 19 days or whatever, and so on. He said, no, Ross Perot and every single employee in IBM met my quota in 19 days. I didn't build the machines. I didn't make the programs. I didn't, I was calling on some clients have been clients for years. I just increased the business they did with us, et cetera. But he had a real, egotistical though he might have been, he had a real clear idea that it's teamwork. Hugh Harris, dear friend of mine who used to be in the home improvement business, owned two of the bigger companies in the country. He and I were talking one day and he said, I've got 300 employees or whatever, whichever company we were talking about in and around Atlanta. And I said, no, you have one. And he said, well, what do you mean I have one? I said, you have the person standing in front of the customer on their doorstep. that person is Dixie Home Crafters. The fact you have 300 behind the scenes is interesting, but the customer doesn't know that. They're not judging you on 299 people they've never met. And so what we finally came down to was drilling home to the salespeople the importance of understanding they represented 300 people. They were the front man for 300 people. But since they didn't make or install or do any of the follow-up work, none of what they were doing and none of the money they were making would have been possible without the other 299. And that includes their friendly rivals, the other salespeople. Because if those salespeople are sullying the reputation of Dixie Home Crafters, then or enhancing it, they can make or break a sale based on what other people have heard. We're about to not do business with a very famous company because I read all of the local in some remodeling we're doing in one of the guest houses. Based on the reviews I read from several local people who had used them. And they were not, this is with names, dates, and addresses. They were, to say the least, very unimpressed and or angry with the service they got. So the wonderful television ads I saw, which caused me to, I was ready to pick up the phone call and say, come do it. And we're not going to do it because they had forgotten, apparently, that you're a team, reputation-wise, service-wise, product-wise, everything. It's all tied together. So Ross Perot was big on that. Next, bottom of page 98, on our society. Our country is so big and complex that people turn the switches off. Apathy is our greatest national weakness. That's a little
That
obscure.
no,
Yeah.
it's absolutely true. People are getting all head up about all kinds of stuff right now, but up until something really ticks them off, they're pretty apathetic.
Yep.
We're busy, and I'm not making excuses for anybody, but we get busy, we get distracted. There's so much, we're bombarded with so much. I'm going to call it what it is garbage. It's coming in. I started to say crap, but garbage sounds better. But we are inundated. It's coming through our computers, in our email, through text messages, through the television, which I know you have to watch it for the commercials because you work with a lot of these people. I don't know how to turn my remote on half the time. I have to study it sometimes, but it doesn't matter. UPS just dropped 3 packages at my door. I'm a little bit irritated with them right now because you talk about, they're the face, that one UPS driver is the face of the company as far as I'm concerned. But recently they're just dumping them. And I've got a good size covered porch. I've got a lot of room out there. Up until about the last 3 or 4 weeks, I've noticed they can't make that extra 2 steps to put it in my line of sight in front of the door. If I don't get an email saying, hey, your packages were delivered, I don't know to go look. That it's 2 steps more. So I'm telling you, they're going to do enough of this that when something new and better comes along, we're all going to jump.
And when they talk, you and other people talk about people like that, you didn't say Bob Smith doesn't bring the packages up to the door like he's supposed
No,
to. You
no.
said UPS doesn't,
UPS.
which is, I don't know how many people they have, 100,000 or more people.
No.
From time to time, I've had to drive to Sacramento down the hill when they're coming out of the barn to go do their day's work.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like watching the German army invade Poland. They have more trucks. It just an endless line of trucks, but all of those, that millions of dollars in cost to have the trucks and hire the people and so on. It's Bob Smith who screws it all up when he throws the packages down. We don't.
I catch myself wondering, okay, are they, because, come Christmas time, these guys are under a heck of a pressure
Mhm.
because everything these days is drop shipped. I'm guilty. I drop ship everything. But I'm wondering how much of this poor schmuck that's, just getting, he won't even put it on the bench, which is the other side of the porch. He just, it's two steps, I'm telling you. I went out and I went, okay, one step, two step. I checked it, but it's like, how many feet is this? It's two darn steps, but it's happening again and again. And I'm inclined to go to management because it's happening more and more and more. It's not the same driver. I suspect they're being said, you've got this much time to get that package delivered, go. And that's my thinking. I don't know if it's true or not,
And,
but
and
it's not a good
UPS,
idea.
although UPS pays them better and they unionized and they just got a big contract and so on, they're having the same problem everybody else is. And, people say service in the restaurants is slow because people don't want to come to work is the reason service in the restaurant is slow. They have half as many people doing the same amount of work that they had a couple of years ago. So, and people, and then I've had friends of mine say, I'm looking, my son is looking for a job. Where would you suggest he go? And I said, does he want to work locally? Yeah. I said, well, just walk up and down Main Street and look at the help wanted signs. Tell him to pick out one he'd like to work at. They will hire, I happen to know the kid he's talking about. They will hire him on the spot. His problem isn't he can't find a job. His problem is he doesn't want a job. And his other problem would be sorting out which of the 20 offers he'd want after he got through his little walk. It always comes back. It's a team effort once you assemble the team. In the meantime, it's an individual effort. And your Bob Smith, whatever his name is, your Bob Smith is besmirching the reputation of UPS. The same thing with postal workers. I see things on the internet all the time, local and national, whining about the postal worker and the same thing, especially people who live out in the country. They won't bring it up to the door. The new people just throw it at the gate and not necessarily inside the gate, at the gate, a quarter of a mile down from their house. And, but again, it's not John Jones sucks. It's the United States Postal Service sucks. So one guy we are blessed with excellent service. We have a
I'm not.
cluster box in our front yard, literally. Going to the post office is probably, I've never measured it, but probably 50 steps. And when we really go to the real post office, I know everybody by name behind the counter. We get excellent service. They always call us by name when we come in. We kid around with them and so on. But Jack Smith can screw all of that up by being, in fact, if people complain about the local post office, there's a person I won't name, but the bad face of the post office is on this one person, always grumpy, always short, always doing the least he or she can possibly do. And for many people, that is the post office. It's like when Gigi and I go out to have a meal, I either rate the restaurant 5 stars and explain why, or I don't rate it at all. I'm not out to tear down somebody else's business. But I can give 5 stars to Denny's because I knew what Denny's is supposed to do. I didn't go in there thinking it was the Ritz. So for a graded on a curve, Denny's, we have a 5-star Denny's right here in town. But a lot of that is us. We don't go out to spend money and time having a bad meal. So we always have a good meal because we decided before we left home we were going to have a good meal. We decided we were going to have good service. We decided that if the server wasn't already a friend, they would be by the end of the meal. What many restaurant owners talking about teams don't seem to understand is that most of them aren't really selling food. If you're on a road trip and you see a McDonald's, perhaps that's food. But what most of us are doing is buying an experience.
Yeah,
We
it's not
have,
food. Don't tell anybody that's not food. I don't know what it is, but it's
yeah,
not edible and it's not healthy. And I'm done now. You keep going.
I've got a book I wrote with Ray Considine, or I had a contribution to it. It's Waymish. You have a copy of the book where I write about a local McDonald's. Um, who were very rude, etc. And although I've been a consultant to McDonald's off and on for years, um, and have sort of a business relationship with them now, uh, I won't go in that. I haven't been in that McDonald's in 20 years, and won't be. They can put up signs under new management, whatever they want to do. That store, one person in that store, rude in front of other people, I'm done. So we had another store in town. It was a Denny's, oddly enough. Excuse me, it was a Denny's, then it became a Mel's, Mel's and American Graffiti, the hamburger stand. We
Like a
went in
Mel's
there,
Diner type of thing?
yeah,
Okay.
and it says Original Mel's. It's not, that's in San Francisco, but same ownership and menu and everything. This lady was, I really forget what she in particular did because it was 25 years ago. Went in, she was smart mouth, etc. She thought in her tight Levi's she was cuter than she was, and maybe she thought she could get away with things and so on. So we went in, and one day after 25 years, and the guy says, "Everybody in here seems to know you, but I don't. Are you new here?" And I said, "Well, her family's been here 100 years. We were here before this was a Denny's and before there was anything on this property. It was a vacant lot when she came here. I've been here 50 years, but the reason you don't know us is you had one smart mouth waitress in here roughly 25 years ago and haven't been back since. And the only reason we're here today is Gigi begged me because I'm told you have thick bacon. If you don't have thick bacon, this is the last time you're going to see me."
Oh,
So we sat down because I still harbored the grudge from the first time. So only the bacon was going to save them. So we sat down together and figured out roughly what we would have spent going in maybe twice a month for a sandwich or something over 25 years. And it came out to like $25,000 that they didn't, I'm making up numbers, but like $25,000 they didn't make from us because of one smart mouth employee in the Mel's organization, which is a large organization and generally very successful. And he said, "Would you come in and talk at our next team, all employee gathering?" I said, "No, but I'll repeat the story again for you so you can tell them. And then the next time I'm in here, you can tell me how it went or get any corrections." But he went away with a message. One lady having a bad day, thinking she was cuter than she was, took $25,000 minimum gross right out of their cash register. Times how many people did she wait on that day? Maybe not all of them are as much into customer service and teams as I am, but it has to affect business. And for me, shut them down entirely. For our bad McDonald's here in town, shut them down entirely. And I wrote a chapter in the book about how horrible they are. I think even with the store number. So you don't, there's that old adage that if you make one person happy, I'm making up numbers because I don't know where they got it, but supposedly if you're waiting on customers and you make one person happy, they'll go tell 5 people. If you make one person unhappy, they'll tell 17 people. Or if you make me unhappy, you wind up in a book that sells a
yeah.
million copies.
Oh,
And I talk about it on podcasts. Don't
well,
go to the McDonald's in Placerville.
exactly. And I'm going to tell you, and I was telling you in our virtual green room, I'm writing a fairly long blog. Last week was just a not great week for me. And it started in, I'm writing a tale of 3 customer service experiences, and you can put quotation marks around customer services if
Yeah.
you like. It started with Pure Talk. I went from AT&T with my
Mhm.
mobile phone to Pure Talk. Um, Read the blog. I'm not going to say what I think about them. It wasn't great. So I went to Mint. That was superb. Then I got down Dell. It was Dell. What can I say? It's always Dell. So there were two just, oh my God, I hate you people, to one, oh, I love you. It's going to stick with me forever. Will I ever say, well, you have to go with Dell. I mean, there's nothing much you can do, but just be prepared for poor customer service. They're
Hmm.
known for it. Pure Talk, shame on them.
Well,
So,
and
shame on them, really.
you just told people all over the world.
Yeah. And they claim that they're an American company and they do this and that. If you don't mind spending 60 or more minutes on hold multiple times over over a
Mhm.
week, you'll love them. But, what
If you
can I
have
say?
nothing else to do in
If
your
you
life,
can, right?
and
And then if
and
you
like,
do reach a person, they'll just repeat their talking points and they will not help you. So anyway, Pure Talk is out as far as I'm concerned. But that goes back to having, that team mentality. And restaurants, you're right, they're known for it. And I think, and I don't know this, I don't spend a lot of time in restaurants. I'm a good cook. I like my cooking better than most restaurants, to be honest with you. Plus, it's a lot less expensive to make my own meals, and I love to cook. But I have noticed over time that management, they're just kind of wandering around going, well, I know that guy on the phone, on the speaker, yelling is annoying, but we can't ask him to leave. Not a problem. I'll leave for you. Goodbye. And I leave. I just pack up and go. You've got kids running around and one just stepped on me. I'm out and I don't go back.
well, that's the way most people feel. And as we were wrapping up the restaurant section, most restaurateurs don't know what they're selling. The food hopefully is good. And if you have a great chef and some good recipes, it ought to be excellent, or at least excellent for what it is you do. Denny's versus what used to be the best restaurant in the world, the Caprice in Tiburon, California. But we go there for entertainment, to be around humanity, here laughing and giggling, and within reason,
Right.
children. I like the sound of laughter when we go to a funeral. Always at a funeral, there's one little child in there. I call it the funeral baby. You're looking at the guy in the box, but on somewhere down front, there's always one little kid giggling or a baby crying. But life goes on. So that's the funeral baby. But back to the restaurant, we don't go out to eat. Gigi and I have, as do you, Gigi and I have food at home. We have beer for me. We have wine for her at home. So we're not going out because we're hungry. We need to go out to eat. We're going out, and eating is almost the incidental part. What we're really going out for is good service, new friends. And by friends, I mean, if it's just laughing with the people at the next table for 3 or 4 minutes, but you've had a warm experience, kidded around with the server, which I always do, because if it's not someone I've known, I'll get better service next time. If it is someone I know, we'll get good service this time. So we warm them up, soften the battlefield, and make sure we get good service. When I read Yelp reviews and so on, the food was terrible, the portions were small, it's not the same since the management or the ownership changed and so on. I think, you poor little fools, you got up this morning looking for trouble, and it took you till lunch or dinner time to find it. But you found it because you were determined to find it. You got up this morning hoping you'd be mad before the day was over. Congratulations, you pulled it off. It's not the restaurant's fault. I've eaten in thousands of restaurants over much of the world, and I've had a couple of meals that gave me food poisoning, but I didn't know it at the time. I've never at the time had a really bad meal. I've had not so good meals. I've had slow service, etc. But what Gigi and I do, we make it a victory anyway. We laugh at slow service. or we laugh at somebody who, we were in a restaurant not too long ago, of course, at my age, that might mean 5 years ago, but a guy at the next table, they came for his check. They gave him his check. He put his credit card on it. The bartender, or goes behind the bar, the server, and from over there he yells, "Your card's declined." Everyone in the restaurant heard it.
No,
Yeah,
no.
your card's declined. So he went over and the guy said, "Well, I'll give you another one. I'm sorry, I must have, whatever." Gives him another one. And he goes back over and messes around with the computer. "This one's declined too."
Was he fired on the spot? He
He
should have
should have
been.
been, but I don't know that. He's not there now, but he should have been. And what I said to him, it didn't look to me like it was an $800 meal. I said to the guy, "Give it to me, put it on me." And I said to him, to the nice gentleman, I said that it's on me this time. But if we're ever in a restaurant and something like happens to me, it's on you. And he said, "Deal," stood up, shook
Deal.
hands,
Right.
and walked out. Unfortunately, I've never seen him again. But
Yeah.
your card is declined. But that's a funny story I've been telling for years. It was worth going out and watching bad service for a moment just to get the story. We were laughing at the time. The guy who was insulted was laughing as he left, shaking his head and laughing. I don't know what had gone on in his financial world, but apparently it was enough to wipe out 2 credit cards. But your card is declined. I thought, oh my God. Early in my career, I've had some ups and downs. Uh, I took a client out and I gave him my American Express card, and the guy came back, and there's no way you can, I don't care what he says, the person you're with knows there's a problem with that card. So and then he said something about they would like to talk to you. So I don't know. I
That's
forget
when
what.
you didn't wet yourself, did you? Because
No, I felt like it though,
that's
but I
one of
like.
those moments you're like, oh my God.
So I got on the phone with him and I said, "I'm really sorry. Am I over or what?" And I forget what the story was, but there was some logical reason they did it. And I said, "Can you get me out of this restaurant without further embarrassment?" They said, "Certainly." So he said, "Give the card to your waiter, the phone to your waiter, and I'll get it handled." And so I went back to the table and I said, "Their computer was screwed up." And a few minutes later, the guy brought over the thing, I signed it and so on. I think I told you the worst one of those, or what could have been the worst. We took 40 some odd people to the Greenbrier in West Virginia, one of the classiest places on earth, and said, "Everything is covered." And, whatever you do, one guy, I remember, took flying lessons. And I kept watching him fly over the swimming pool, thinking, boy, somebody must be taking lessons. Well, they were, and I was paying for them. And then another guy went in the pro shop, and Sam Sneed said, "Do you guys mind if I play with you?" And they said, "No, we'd be honored." So he played with them, then charged each of them $500 for a playing lesson.
Okay, that's on Sam Sneed. Shame on him.
Yeah, he was known to be sort of a sleazeball.
Yeah.
And so he lived up to his reputation. So anyway, I go down to pay up, and I forget the figure, but it was, let's say, $50,000 or $45,000, and this was years ago, so it'd be about $450,000 for all these nice people for a long weekend, 5 days, something like that. And I gave the guy my card, and my hand was shaking a little bit. I was doing well. I was president of the company by this time, but I'd never been presented with a $45,000 bill either. And so I handed it to him. The manager came back out and he said, "Mr. Gay, American Express would like to talk to you." Well, I'm surrounded by all these distributors who
Oh
were sort of
no.
curious as to what the bill amounted to. They knew it must have been sizable.
Right.
So he hands me the phone. So now I'm talking to American Express within earshot of 35, 40 people, all of whom work for me. And I said, "Yes, this is Ben Gay." And they said, "Hi, sir. Just because of the size of the tab, what's your mother's maiden name?" And I told them, and he said, "Okay, good. That's all we needed. Give the phone back." I'd already had the experience for much less money, a couple $100 with American Express in that restaurant. So when they said American Express wants to talk to you, I thought, oh God. And what's my backup plan? I didn't have another card on me.
Did you
My
have car keys?
he had an
Uh,
airplane.
yeah.
The Learjet was ready and being warmed up. We'd have left in a flurry, but we'd have left 45 people, 40 or 45 people behind. So anyway, it's a team sport, whether you're the one person on the step representing 300 or you're one of the 300 that no one knows individually, but they destroy your name. It's a team sport, and Ross Perot had a clear understanding of that. The next section on it in the book on page 99 was on fundamentals. And he said, the most fundamental things don't cost money. You don't have to spend $1 billion to start treating people with respect. You don't have to spend $1 billion to provide true leadership. And that sort of ties into what we've been talking about. If you train people properly and incentivize them through profit sharing, treating them right, whatever, you have a team, and what that team has to do is not much, really. It seems like much because their customers are mistreated so many other places. If you treat them right, they think it's a religious experience. And then he goes on entrepreneurial spirit versus mega management. He said, I don't believe that treating people with dignity and respect, tapping their ideas, focusing all of the energy on an 800,000 person organization on one thing, making a great car, is entrepreneurial. I just think that's plain good business. And again, I would encourage the
Talking about,
incentivizing.
was he talking about Ford? Do you know?
I don't know who he was talking about. It might have been Ford,
Probably.
or his buddy was Lee Iacocca. It might have been
Oh,
Chrysler.
Chrysler. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I forgot
Right.
about that.
Well, the next one down, it says the car capital of the world is Toyota City, not Detroit. The company philosophy is every employee is a brother. That's what we have to have. He was saying, wherever you are now, every employee is a brother. The guy who does the My Pillow thing and yells, "Oh, you don't watch television." Anyway, there's a guy. He's conservative, politically active.
I have a couple of his pillows. They're great.
Okay. Well, he yells and screams and carries on. He was on television the other day. They're doing a $25 extravaganza. The pillow you might have paid $40 for a year ago is now 25, no matter the size, the loft, the whatever. But he says in the midst of this commercial, my employees and I, and the hair on the back of my neck goes up. That should be team members. He's inadvertently, I'm sure,
That
looking
could be him.
down on the employees like chattel.
And he didn't mean that, I don't think, because he's a pretty
Probably
good
not.
guy.
Yeah, I've
I
been
think he
impressed.
is.
I think
I
it's
have to
also.
tell you, one of the best pillows I got from them is for my dog. She loves it.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he does dog beds, dog pillows. They're great.
Well, he says we started off with one product, and now we have hundreds, many of which you may not know about. And that may be one of the ones I didn't know about because, slippers and dog beds and probably cat bed. Of course, a cat doesn't need a specific pillow. It takes whatever pillow it wants.
It
So
sits
it
on
doesn't.
me. I'm the pillow.
Yeah.
On the top of
Gigi's,
my head, my lap.
yeah. Gigi's chest is where our main cat spends much of his life, with his nose on her chin.
I've
Well,
got my two giant gingers. I can't have them on my chest because they're 20 pounds apiece. And I'm like,
no,
I can't breathe. I can't move. So we have discussions about that.
finishing up on that entrepreneurial spirit thing and dealing with individual people, one of the great secrets I've found, I didn't get it from this particular chapter, but one of the great things I've found is that new people, there's two times when you can learn the most from a new team member. That's when they first get there and haven't been spoiled by the culture, good or bad. they're new and everything's fresh to them. And so they don't know that's the way we've always done it. I've gotten more, we did several aspects of our shipping department not too long ago, a few months ago, when a new guy walked in after about half a day. He said, "Excuse me, can I ask a question?" And the question he asked was, "Why do you do this way, and why do you do this way, and so on?" And I said, "Because that's how we've always done it." I don't know. I probably walked in the first day and did it that way, and whoever was the second employee started doing it the same way, and so on. But he showed us a different way of packing things, and his was percentage wise. He's a mathematical guru type person. If you do this, if you turn this way half a turn, uh, it'll save you 10 seconds per hour per employee times 200 employees. After a while, it's like Henry Ford used to say, save me 25 cents a car. That can be a knob, it could be a nut or a bolt. Save me 25 cents a car and I'll give you a $20,000 bonus. The numbers really add up. So this kid is one of those. And the other time to check with somebody and get honest things is as they're leaving, whether they quit. Maybe if got fired may not be a good idea, but I don't think I've fired 2 people in 50 years. I hire carefully so I don't have to fire on a regular basis. But the exit interview, you're leaving, you're not going to get in any trouble, wouldn't have before, but you're not going to get in any trouble. What could we do better? What did you not like about coming to work? What did you not like about this company? And they will tell you then, if the mood is right, things that will save you an enormous amount of time and frustration. I was telling that to somebody the other day, and they said, "Oh yeah, that or the 4th of July picnic, when the husband gets drunk and tells you what the wife who works with you really thinks."
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, my wife works for you, and you know what she thinks about.
She hates y'all,
Yeah, that usually comes after about the 5th beer.
I would think. And she's probably crawling to the car saying, "Don't talk to him.
Yeah,
Stop. Just
he's he's,
stop."
he's going to do it again. Yeah, he always does it about this time in any gathering.
Well, so you have to blame the wife for taking the idiot with her. That's, you can't, what are you gonna say? And one thing, and we're just about done here. We talked about the company philosophy, and I wanted to, we can talk about 2 more, and the next one is really going, I have questions. But on his struggle with GM's board of directors, he said, there are a lot of ways to fight. You don't always fight the same way. Sometimes use bottles, sometimes use knives, and other times just kick them in the shins. And I kind of like that. Yeah, I'm a Southerner. That's the way we do things. We just kick your butt and walk off.
And he answered your question as to what car he was probably talking about, because he went to General Motors, not actively, but as a member of the board of directors. So that you were asking earlier, was he talking about Ford or I guess Toyota? Turns out it was GM. Yeah, he's right. And there are a lot of other ways to get sneaky ways. I was once many years ago in a situation where people came in and made requests of me. I didn't own the company or anything, but came in and made requests. And if they were friendly and nice and they treated everybody right, it got handled. If they weren't, I had a paper shredder right beneath my feet, right beside my feet. And I don't think anybody ever caught the sound, but if I didn't like you and you made a request and you were really alert when you hit the door to leave, you would have heard zzz. So I wasn't even cool about it. And with a straight face, I could deny. I don't remember you handing it to me. If you did, I would have given it this way, go check with them and so on. But it was shredded. That was one of those cross-cut paper
Right.
cutters. The CIA couldn't have put it back together. So there are many ways to get to somebody, ways to sabotage. And there are people who run a business. Sales is one of them. salespeople, if they're not really good and working with the people like they should, are disliked because the accounting department thinks they make too much. The people in the loading dock think they're treated like prima donnas when they're actually sweating and lifting 50-pound boxes and so on. So the salesperson, I always tell them, be kind to everybody in here, become a close friend, because they instinctively don't like you for a variety of reasons, and they can get you. Your orders don't get shipped, they don't get processed quickly. Things are left out of them. One quick one, and we'll got to wrap it up anyway, I suspect. I was working at Macy's, Davison's in Atlanta, it was called. And I was working in the toy department, assistant buyer or buyer of toys or something. But on Christmas, everybody's out on the floor working. And the guy said, I like that tricycle, but I'll assemble it myself. I said, good, we got them in boxes. So I went in the back, got the box of that tricycle, and handed it to him. He said, well, let's open it up. I said, well, if you wanted to assemble, I've got it assembled. And he said, no, I just want to make sure everything's in here. At 2:00 in the morning with a couple of glasses of wine, I don't want to be told to pick up part A and discover there is no part A. So we're going to make sure it's all in the box now. And I said, fine. So I opened up the box and pulled out the instructions. Somewhere in America, there was a guy who had put together one too many tricycles or put them in boxes. He was tapped out. He was not a happy employee. He had written in marker's pencil across the front of the instructions, ride like the wind, you son of a bitch.
But were all the parts there? That's what I want to know.
Well, it turned out they were,
Oh,
but
good.
I saw it and I didn't think he'd seen it yet. And I grabbed it and he grabbed it back. He says, oh, no, you don't. This one's going to be framed and on my den wall.
I bet.
Bold handwriting. Ride like the wind, you son of a bitch.
I would put that in a Christmas stocking every year. Yeah. No matter how old that kid was, he could be in his 60s. So remember this? So that is hilarious. Okay, I've got one. That's hilarious. Thank you for sharing that. My last one, and Ross Perot says on success, a person is never more on trial than in a moment of excessive good fortune. And I have to admit, I'm not sure what he meant by that.
Well, what he means is I'll give you an example. When I was made president of Holiday Magic, I was a high school graduate. I'd never read a balance sheet or a profit and loss or anything. And I'm in charge of a business that soon was taking in $1 million a day. And adjusted for inflation, we were doing about $3.5 billion. And I was not qualified. They never caught on. If they did, they were too polite to say, because the reason I was promoted was I was good in front of a room and I was a good salesman. So there I am. I'm president of the company. I'm 25 years old, I think. I think my poop does not have aroma to it. I'm sailing along. I can do no wrong. And that's when the danger comes. Fred Colson, I think his name was, worked for Nixon, became a Christian in prison. He's one of the ones that got jailed, and wrote a book, became better known after the White House than in the White House. He gets something from an audience somewhere. I wasn't there, I don't know, but I picture an arena full of people. He walks to the lectern and they stand and cheer and scream because here's the man who has come back from all that and is still standing. And they're cheering. And he wrote in his book, one of his friends came up behind him, put his hand on his shoulder. Chuck Colson is who it was. He put his hand on his shoulder. He said, watch out, Chuck. The devil is on your back now. In other words, don't be fooled by the yelling and screaming and carrying on. You're still Chuck Colson, a middle management guy in the White House who screwed up and went to prison. Nothing's changed. That's who you are. Be careful. The devil's on your back.
I believe it. I mean, I understand what he was told and why he was told it, but it is sad. Well, on one part of it, you think, oh, I can do this forever. They love me. Was it Sally Field who got up in front of accepting some
Yeah.
kind of one of those silly
You love
Hollywood
me.
awards? You love me. You really, really love me. I can tell you stories about her in Steel Magnolias, and she was not loved. That's all I have to say. But she really was not loved. But every time you think, oh, I've got it all, I'm the best, you're not. You are at that moment, but yeah, you better watch out because I think that's when people start looking at you, really looking at you. That's when the knives come out for whatever reason. People are humans. We have good days, we have bad days. Some of us are just bad code. We're just not good people. So I'm a nerd, but yeah, it's interesting. But I'm glad you explained that because I've looked at that a couple of times and went, huh, I'm not sure I get it. Well, I do now.
And if you think back over your life, there have been times when you were susceptible to that, whether you fell into it or not is immaterial. You were
Yeah,
susceptible to it. You were wonderful. Yes, I am. We ran a quarter page ad in the
I
Wall Street
am.
quarter page ad in the Wall Street Journal one time. Uh, my picture and a legend in his own time, and it was about why you ought to hire me to be a speaker. I was still running the cosmetic company, but we were going to branch out and become a national brand. I intended to run for office, and so I got several copies, clipped out one and mailed it to my mother. I know she didn't read the Wall Street Journal, but she might be impressed to see her son in a big ad, legend in his own time. And it was gone a week or two. And then I got a note from my mother, opened it up, and there's the ad. She'd crossed out time and wrote mind.
I knew it. I knew it. That's, I could see her doing it. I mean, that's the only thing she could say. It's in your own mind. I knew you when you were a little shit. Don't forget. So, Southern mothers, you can't mess with them.
uh, have we got
We,
time for one more embarrassing story?
if it's, yeah.
Okay.
I was going to say if it's good, but it's always good.
My first wife and I, Marcia, who I mentioned earlier, were in Washington, D.C. at the whatever hotel doing a seminar. And our PR firm, as it turned out, had sent a press release to the Washington Post. And so I'm just sitting there reading it because it's a local paper. And I'm flipping through it and I see the headline, Young and in the Money. And so I started reading it. Well, it turned out Young and in the Money was me. And so I said, Marcia, listen up, blah, 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 blah. And I read the whole article to her. And when I finished, she said, you're sick. And I said, why? She said, you wrote that. Well, it turned out I had written the first draft and my PR people cleaned it up and submitted it to the Washington Post. But, I'm great. I'm in the Washington Post and they think I'm wonderful. You wrote that.
We have had talks about this before because we both write a lot and we're out there on social media and you write books, I'm writing a book. We're always in front of our keyboards and you and I will say, "Oh, I just read this wonderful thing." And then I realize and I said, "Man, that is great." Well, it ought to be I wrote it. You know,
Yeah.
it happens a lot because we forget what we
Yeah.
wrote. It's like, "Oh, that's really good."
With the closers part too, I experience that frequently. That's closer to the way I really sell. A lot of the other stuff we do is here's the technicalities of what you must do and what's really going on, more mechanical. But that one is close to my heart, and I'm forever reading it, preparing for an interview or something. And I think, God, that's good. And then I think, you wrote it. Again, of course it's good, and you spent time on it, and you
Yeah.
agreed with it. That's
And
that's
you
the reason
meant
it's
it.
yeah, and I
Right.
meant it.
Right. Right. Well, this has been a fascinating conversation. It always is. And I love this book and I just love talking about the closers because As you know well, when I was younger, I got very offended by some old man in a hardware store. No, it was a feed store, I think. I can't remember. Um, Tapping me on the shoulder and saying, "Honey, you are one of the best natural salespeople I have ever met." I was trying to unload two piglets that I had bought by accident at a auction, a livestock auction, because I used to talk with my hands. Now I sit on them. I know better. But I bought two little baby pigs. I didn't know what to do with them. I'm in this hardware store going, "Anybody want these?" Bacon. Can you take it? Somebody did take them, but and he was listening to me and I said, "Do you want them?" He said, "No, but you're really good." I said, "Thank you." But I remember thinking, "Oh, that was a mean thing to say." And then later I was like, "I am so sorry." He was right and I was wrong, but I was really offended by
And
it.
it was a great compliment.
It was, and I did
Yeah.
not. I was young and stupid, had two little piglets in the car. Yeah, really young and really stupid. And I had no idea what this man was saying to me. And I have to tell you, Ben, I think about him every day. Every day.
Yep.
Never saw him again. He must have seen, I never just went, ugh. I just said, "Oh, okay, well, thank you." And he had to have known that I didn't mean a word of it, that I was startled. But every day, and I'm sure he's long gone. He was pretty old then. And I think about it all the time. It's like this man tapped me on the shoulder to tell me something important, and I didn't get it.
Well,
I do
that's
now.
one of the things about being young and stupid. And then you can look back and learn from the experience.
Yeah, don't go to a livestock auction and talk with your hands. Okay, so anyway, what are we going to talk about next week?
Well, we got two little small sections to go in the Perot thing, and then surprise me when we get on. We'll just pick out another
Okay.
section of the book and go.
Okay, great. All right. Well, listen, tell everybody where they can. You already told everybody where they can get the books. If we have questions, where can people reach you? Because we do like to answer questions
Sure
on this
do.
podcast. So tell people where to get in touch with you.
Or be reminded of embarrassing experiences. Thank you, Jerry Irwood. Uh, Jeff Hunter, I know his name now. Just shoot me an
I'm going to
email.
go look for him. I don't know who Jeff Hunter is, but I will in a few minutes.
Handsome guy, very nice, kind to someone who butchered his name in front of 15,000. So other than that, Jeff and I were really close friends. Never saw him again, never heard from him again. If you want to ask me a question or make a comment or something, just shoot me an email. B as in Ben, F as in Frank, G as in gay, the numeral 3, BFG3 at DirectCon. It's short for Direct Connect, DirectCon as in November, .net. And I'll either answer you right there, or if it's something that's better suited for the show, tune in the following week or two and I'll bring it up there. By the way, somebody that heard our broadcast very recently wrote me a letter. She's writing a book on multi-level marketing. Heard me mention Holiday Magic, looked me up and so on. So she wants to interview me about that segment of the MLM industry.
Nice.
So yeah, hopefully she writes nice things.
Or you can write it for her.
Yeah,
We do that a lot. It's like, here you go, and you can take it and run with it. Well, listen, everybody, you can find me as well too. I'm easy to find. Just go to yourpartnerinsuccessradio.com. I've got contact forms over there. You can call me directly on my toll-free number, which is 888-719-6711. Again, it is 888-719-6711. And we will see you next week. Thank you, Ben. It's always so much fun chatting with you.
pleasure. Have a great day.
You too.